Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I am your host, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog, Eric Tenkar. And I am covering what has been a series of strips in on the Dork Tower website. I will include a link to the one I'm showing. I didn't want to go over all of them because I want to make sure John Kovalic gets his traffic. But I am going to send you there because he makes some great comments about Hasbro slash Watsy. And why is he going directly at Hasbro? Hasbro is the parent company, certainly. And it allows you to use things like Mr. Potato Head as a graphic in this, because if you watch the strips, Mr. Potato Head suffers as they go on. So this one is from April 8th. That's almost a week ago. I think it is spot on. So it's a conversation going on at the Hasbro headquarters offices, presumably with Chris Cox. Now remember, Chris Cox runs a game multiple times a week, uses AI for it because, AI should be accepted by the masses because I use it in my home games, but in a limited fashion. But, I mean, Hasbro we're embracing AI. Trust me, folks, when I say that AI DMs or AI dungeon generation, adventure generation is just a heartbeat away. It's just a heartbeat away. And I believe that John sees the same thing. So, here's the strip that's on your screen right now. I'm going to make a few comments on it because I think he is very insightful. With respect, sir, you might understand the games, but you don't seem to understand the gamers, right? Gamers, it's a culture. These are the people you're selling to. These are the people that you want to buy your shit. You've got to understand your customer base. So, Dungeons and Dragons used to have all the goodwill in the world. It did, right? And yes, I've heard it said the OGL was a trap. Maybe it was. But it was a very attractive trap that helped third-party publishers in addition to WotC. It kept D&D alive and vibrant with new content coming out continually. Blow that, in other words, blow that goodwill, and players would either switch RPGs, because there are numerous RPGs out there, right? Not just Pathfinder and Black Flag, Tales of the Valiant, and other variations of 3E or 5E or OSR, right? There's different flavors. Or RuneQuest, right? Or Dragonbane or Knave, or it just goes on and on. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. There are countless options. And if you piss off your customer base, they don't have to stick with you. It isn't required. In any case, blow that, and players will either switch RPGs or simply make their own campaigns at home. What did Gary often say? The secret that we don't want to tell anyone is that you don't need the rules, right? Or once you have the rules, you don't need any more support material, right? Hey, we've all designed a world or two. Usually, if you've been a GM, I know I did. I don't think they were great, but I did it. World design is part of this process of being a GM. WotC does not design worlds anymore, right? They recycle them. And they fit everything they have into the Forgotten Realms because it's the only one that truly exists. So, the secret is once you have the rules, you don't need WotC anymore. And if you just want to play an RPG, you don't need WotC at all. And there are free rules out there. Basic Fantasy RPG, right? Osric, Swords and Wizardry, The Labyrinth Lord. I guess the basic OSE rules, right? There's so many options. I haven't even touched the surface. So, presumably Chris Cox's response. Wait, players can make their own Dragons and Dungeons content at home? Which, by the way, is an ongoing gag of Dragons and Dungeons. And why is that? Because I know the game when he probably doesn't really know the game all that much. So, players can make their own Dragons and Dungeons content at home? Yes, sir. Call out the Pinkertons! Not again, sir. The Pinkertons being called out for the Magic the Gathering cards that were apparently released too early to a vlogger who happened to show them off online. And then the Pinkertons came to the house without a search warrant because they can't have a search warrant. They're private security, effectively. They have no law enforcement powers. And they strong-armed the individual in question. That wasn't a good story. There's a lot of not good stories coming out of Hasbro / WotC. Right? If you read these strips, they talk about the layoffs. They talk about cutting costs. Read the strips. Not just to give John some traffic. I'm sure he does great traffic. Read the strips. See what John is saying. A lot of times in society, some of the most insightful observations on current events are made in humor. And John has struck gold with some of his observations. So I will include a link to Dork Tower in the show notes for this episode. Go read them. They go back about a month. There's about 5 or 6 of them so far. They are spot on, though. And I think we're going to see more of them. All right, folks. On that note, as always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. In the next day or two, I will be reviewing the Game Master's book of Random Encounters and why. This book I found today at Five Below for $5. You know what? For 140 pages of material for an improv DM, I think this is well worth the $5 investment. And I've only flipped through it briefly. But I will give it a better read, and I'll give it a review later on this week. All right, folks. I'll catch you all later. God bless. Be good.